Okay, we'll move on to our next speaker. Dr. Arunalal Chakravarti um, is a physician in India, and he is a professor of medicine in the Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research in Chandigarh, India. His topic today is COVID-19 and mucormycosis, and there's probably no one in the world who knows more about this, particularly in the midst of many thousands of cases. And so, Arunalal, thank you so much for joining us. This is a pre-recorded talk because of the time difference.
Thank you for Mycosis Study Group who has invited me to deliver a very important lecture on COVID-19 associated mucormycosis. You know, during this outbreak, media has reported black fungus, white fungus, yellow fungus, and I would say that these names created more confusion, so rather we should avoid it. Now come to the mucormycosis issue of the topic. I would say that in India, mucormycosis is nothing new because we see very high incidence, nearly 70 times to the world. But COVID-19 associated mucormycosis is unprecedented. It's a storm, or it can be said of as a tsunami. And first time, mucormycosis is declared as the notifiable disease in India. And by the August 3rd, when the government portal completed this particular reporting of COVID-associated mucormycosis, there is already nearly 50,000 cases reported. And the same portal mentioning it is very likely that actual figures are considerably higher than this. Now come to the story since 2020 at the beginning. This was the first case which we had come across when we found in a COVID patient uncontrolled diabetic. Then the patient had cough expectation. Patient was negative for galactomannan and beta-glucan, but sputum was positive for Rhizopus microsporus. So we diagnosed or thought to be as a probable case of mucormycosis. The patient was treated with liposomal amphotericin B, then posaconazole, and that time we found there are 5 cases of pulmonary COVID-associated mucormycosis reported. Of these, the 2 were diagnosed post-mortem, 1 who had both rhinocerebral and pulmonary mucormycosis. So what we found is that diabetes, ARDS, renal compromise, curdling diagnosis and surgery, making this scenario quite complicated. By the time we started seeing occasional cases of rhinocerebral mucormycosis, suddenly there was a report of 18 cases from one city, Bengaluru, which is in the southern part of India. From 3 centers, eye centers, they reported 18 cases. That raised the antenna of all of us. So I contacted the European Confederation of Medical Mycology as well as our International Society for Human and Animal Mycology. We tried to compile all cases which is COVID associated. We found majority of these cases are from India. And if you see in India, the cases were mainly rhino-orbital not the pulmonary variety, the others were getting pulmonary. And what we have seen amongst these cases, the mortality is much higher in case of pulmonary group than the patients with rhino-orbital group where CNS involvement and when there is no CNS involvement. So we planned this study in the end part of last year, that is from September to December 2020, 16 center study which we have started. We found that this COVID-associated mucormycosis has increased the mucormycosis rate so much compared to 2019, and the same centers, there is more than 2-fold rise is already been there. Second important fact what we found is that this is the older male patient who suffered. And if you look into prevalence-wise, it was 0.27% of the patients who are treated with COVID in the hospital and 1.6% in the patients who are treated in ICU. What we found is that majority of the cases were nasoorbital mucormycosis, but the patients were already coming late to the hospital because 1/4 of the patient, they have already the brain involvement which is there. Diabetes and steroid were found to be very significantly associated, but 1/3 of the patient, there is no diabetes, only COVID. But they also received the steroid, that was the major important factor. Next important thing, what we found is that these patients acquired this mucormycosis or were diagnosed of mucormycosis after median 18 days of COVID diagnosis. That means by the time they are discharged from the hospital, they are coming back to the hospital with this mucormycosis. That was a very important finding, and that helped in case of future control. And by multivariate analysis, what we found is that hypoxia and inappropriate steroid was very important risk factor. Then another study which came in the early part of this year, January to March 2021, it is at three centers, but the report was almost similar. They have got in patients in ICU around 1.8%, we have got 1.6%, and similarly, a later part of the COVID diagnosis, they acquired the infection. But what they also found that the mean ferritin level was very high in this group of patients. But friends, everything went up. There was an unprecedented surge which we have found in April and May. Compared to our December, this data showed there is a tremendous rise which is being there. So this was the first paper which had come from the ophthalmology group, and this particular group, nearly 3,000 patients which they have looked into, data-wise they have shown this similar picture. But what they have shown is that they have shown mortality 14%. But this was very, very early report. They have not looked into 6 weeks or 12 weeks mortality, which was very important in case of mucormycosis. But what you can see is that this is very important, that most of the cases of mucormycosis were in the western part of India. Then it is in the northern and southern part, very few cases in the eastern part of India. So during this time, there are myriad hypotheses. Many people said it is the mucorales, spores around the garbage, construction activities, because of the makeshift COVID-19 facility, contamination of the oxygen supply, respiratory equipment, humidifier, water, reused face masks, zinc supplement. So many things came in the paper and people started claiming this would be responsible. So we went on studying one after another. First thing we look into whether zinc supplementation is important or not. At least in vitro, we found that the 50% of the isolates has significant growth in presence of zinc enriched media. But what we found in the patients and control, there is no rise in zinc concentration. There is nothing which we could say that zinc is playing important role or contributing in case of pathogenesis of mucormycosis. Then we looked into the iron issue. We found that the medium serum iron and total iron binding capacity, both are significantly low in case of COVID-associated mucormycosis. This paper is just yesterday had been accepted in Mycosis Journal, and you can see that serum iron in case of the cases and total iron binding capacity significantly low compared to the control. Then this is the very important study. It is just we have submitted for publication. This particular study is the environmental study at 11 centers. And we try to first choose this center depending upon the prevalence of these cases which have been shown. There were cases, there were centers from the western part, there is centers from the northern part, southern part, and also eastern part. This study had shown very important findings. First, in case of oxygen pores, we have sampled nearly 137, but none showed mucorales. Oxygen cylinder, especially people claim that industrial oxygen is very important factor. None had mucorales. Humidifier water, there is nothing which we could find. But what we found is that in case of the 172 mask, that is the cloth mask, which was repeatedly used in the patient, only in 3, that means around 1.7%, there is mucorales being present. But what importantly we found is that air conditioning vents, where the presence of mucorales are there, and if you see in the room air, whether it is air conditioned or even non-HEPA filtered room and outdoor air, the spore count of mucorales is very high. Next, very interestingly, we observed that in case of outdoor air, there is, rather in North India, the mucosal spore counts is higher compared to the South India, though, as I've shown already, the case numbers are much more in case of western part of India. And what we found that in all samples, yes, Aspergillus is the commonest one, then is the mucorales, and amongst the mucorales, it is the Rhizopus aereus is the commonest one we found. So our study, the conclusion of this particular environmental study is that neither oxygen pool, oxygen cylinder, or humidified water had mucorales contamination. 11.1% AC vents had mucorales, and it requires regular cleaning. That is very important. Because of this, here has been got more mucorales in the hospital. Only 1.7% of the used cloth mask contain mucorrhizous fungi. So mask cannot be the major source of the outbreak. However, if you see isolation of these fungi from oxygen source, humidifier, water, respiratory equipment, mask is a matter of concern. So overall in India, we need to improve the housekeeping activities of the hospital. High mucoral spores in both indoor and outdoor vicinity of the hospital is a serious issue. What interestingly, we found that overall spore count in the year positively correlated with the number of COVID-associated mucormycosis patients treated at the respective hospital. But I would say that there is a caveat. Some of the patients, they had come from home environment. So what it happens is that generally the patient when discharged, even in the home environment, there is high mucoral spore count. So they need to use universal clean mask, especially in the patients having diabetes, going even into the home environment, they should keep at least for a month. When they have immune dysregulation, they should minimize the exposure of mucorals. Friends, this story of mucorals in the ear is not a very recent story. Even earlier, we have shown that at different season in hospital and outdoor, in India, there is high mucoral spore count. And the common species is always the Rhizopus aereus. So what we have learned from these CAM cases is that there are three contributors. One is that uncontrolled diabetes factor, indiscriminate steroid use factor. Now high environmental mucoral spore in air is another factor. Now the question is, why is such a high surge came? Friends, if I have to narrate this story in this way, during this period, there were so many cases of mucormycosis, not mucormycosis, first I would say COVID. During this period, that doctors were seeing the patients not only in the wards, they are seeing in the corridor, they are seeing the patient in the pavement even. And they had no time, that time, to control their blood sugar, to check their blood sugar. Rather, they were trying to save the patient. So what had happened, by this time also there is oxygen crisis. So they went on increasing the steroid dose to compensate the oxygen which is not available. So what had happened that instead of 6 milligram Dexa, some of the patients where they have given 30, even 40 milligram Dexa. And that is increased the blood sugar. Have you heard that blood sugar of 700, 800? These were seen in these type of patients. So I would say that steroid, diabetes, and environment, all these factors played together. Of course, COVID also possibly played an important role. This recent publication has indirectly proven this theory. This is one of the hospitals in Mumbai, which is in the western part, where there are plenty of cases of COVID-associated mucormycosis were there. In this hospital, in ICU, they have treated more than 1,000 patients. And if you look into this ICU patient, 915 received steroid, 1,417 had diabetes as comorbidity. And they had seen the patients during even April and May 2021 when their COVID-associated mucormycosis outbreak was going on. But what they have done, at least as a protocol strictly in their hospital, they have maintained a steroid protocol. They have not allowed prednisolone to be given more than 40 or 30 milligram, and never allowed this steroid to be given more than 6 days. And a nurse-driven strict glycemic control regimen was also being practiced. So what they have reported, There's no case of mucormycosis reported during their stay in the hospital and during immediate outpatient department follow-up. So this indirectly shows that the inappropriate steroid use as well as diabetes is an important risk factor in developing mucormycosis. Friends, we have started doing that study of this second wave where we are trying for a case control. This very preliminary data, just for the sake of discussion, I have brought this data. We are still collecting the data. Possibly will go nearly 2,000 or more than 2,000 CAM cases and nearly 4,000 controls. This is the 17 centers data of 736 CAM cases, and controls are the COVID positive, but not having COVID-associated mucormycosis. What we found is that this population, especially the cases, they are from the rural origin. Diabetes is a very important factor. Hyperglycemia is also an important factor. Decay, though numbers are less, but still it is significant. But earlier we reported hypoxemia. Possibly hypoxemia is not an important risk factor in case of this mucormycosis. Steroid use without hypoxemia is an important risk factor. Zinc supplementation has now been found to be important. And if you look into the leukocyte count, there is no lymphopenia, which should have been discussed. This is 12% lymphopenia to disturb this aspect. So when we had done the logistic regression analysis of these cases, we found the same thing: diabetes, hyperglycemia during admission, and the patients where glucocorticosteroid had been given without or in absence of hypoxemia is very important factor, and mechanical ventilation is also. Site involvement, when we compare the COVID-19 associated mucormycosis with the non-COVID mucormycosis, we found that here rhinoorbital group is much higher compared to this non-COVID associated mucormycosis. This particular study would take another month for giving you really a good data on this aspect. So friends, what is happening in case of this COVID, diabetes, and mucor? See, in case of the this COVID patient, in relation to the diabetes, I would say 4 factors causing the hyperglycemia. If the patient is already having diabetes, and by this time we come to know, or we have known, that COVID-19 virus also damages the pancreatic beta cell and elicits the beta cell impairment. Steroid also raises the blood sugar. And finally, what we have come to know is that there's stress-related hormone because of COVID stress causing. So these 4 factors, diabetes, COVID, steroid, and stress, that causing the hyperglycemia. When these patients is hyperglycemia, they have got an inflammatory state. And then there is an alteration in iron metabolism. Hyperferritinemic syndrome, this is causing excess intracellular iron, and this excess intracellular iron causing reactive oxygen radicals to be released, causing damage, and so free irons come in the circulation, which is a good food for mucus. Besides this, we also have seen there is endotheliitis. This endotheliitis has been shown in case of autopsy data. And this endotheliitis has got very importance because you see there is this endothelial receptor glucose regulated protein, or GRP78, is upregulated, which help the cortex to be attached. So with this cartoon, we tried to explain this: the high glucose, free iron, siderophores. First, there is endoplasmic reticulum stress. So GRP70 is upregulated, where cortex 3 is adding here, it causing cellular damage in the cells and ultimately penetrating and entering in the blood vessel, and finally causing ischemia and hypoxemia. So we have spore high count in the year, but generally healthy people are not having this infection because of their innate immunity. But here COVID-19, steroid, and diabetes are playing important role. But we are not very clear how COVID-19 exactly causing damage other than pancreatic beta cell, other than endotheliitis, whether they are also damaging the especially innate immunity or not, that we are at present studying. So what are the unexplored areas till now? First, in case of the COVID-19, I just mentioned that we are looking into whether it is disturbing the mucor-specific immunity. That is very important. Second important thing, role of fungus. Is there any genetic susceptibility of Indian population? Though common isolate is Rhizopus aereus, we are looking into whether it has acquired some virulence or not. We are also looking into, though we have already shown that industrial oxygen, humidifier, mask are not important, but whether there is any other environmental factor. Now, coming into the diagnosis, rhinocerebral mucormycosis, there is not much problem, because if you just collect the sample by ENT specialist, easily by calcofluor you can diagnose. And even in culture, within 2 to 3 days, you can see the growth, but only thing is that you should not homogenize the sample. But the problem, and here another thing happened. You know that during this time, we have seen not only mucor. In some of the patients, initially it was 5%, but possibly now it had gone up to 10%, that both aspergillus and mucor are present in the same patient. So that's a dual infection which is there, and that is also creating problem in case of pulmonary mucormycosis. Now, in pulmonary mucormycosis, it is not such straightforward diagnosis as in case of rhinocerebral. Here, the symptoms and radiological signs are non-specific, overlap with COVID-19 as well as COVID-associated pulmonary aspergillosis. So we encourage now in our centers that go for bronchoscopy, collect the BL sample, try to look into transbronchial biopsy, and if there is possible, do a CT-guided lung biopsy. And at the same time, if there is an imaging reverse halo sign, thick wall cavity, bird nest sign, or mycotic aneurysm, though it can also be in kappa, but it is more commonly in case of CAM. And on the top of that, if there is repeated negative galactomannan, beta-glucan, or Asperger-specific PCR, it suggests the COVID-associated pulmonary mucormycosis. Besides the pulmonary mucormycosis, we have also started looking for cases of gastrointestinal invasive mucormycosis, but these have been all diagnosed accidentally. Earlier also, when we tried to review in case of the gastrointestinal mucormycosis, we found that the mortality is very high in this group, and these are diagnosed accidentally during surgery and autopsy. But what we can do in this group of patients is that, there is the triad of shock, which have been seen significantly in this group, especially in pediatric group. Children also with a broad spectrum of antibiotics has got more chance having it. Adults, when there is abdominal distension, there is chance of having these cases with fever with GI bleed. Now, here very importantly, we try to train all the clinicians as well as the patients, because the patients are discharged from the hospital, then they are coming back. They should not delay for their attention to the clinician. They have been advised with these initial symptoms what can be seen. Generally, we know nasal blockage, congestion, nasal discharge, facial pain. These are the early symptoms in nasoorbital area. But interestingly, we found this time, good number of cases, there is jaw involvement and there is loosening of the maxillary teeth. There is, of course, in the later part, blurred vision and all those in the orbital involvement when it is there. Pulmonary mucormycosis is a big problem. Here, as I've said, the symptoms and signs are not very non-specific to say. Only thing is that it should have increased awareness and the antenna should be high for diagnosing these cases. While this outbreak was going on, another important challenge we faced, that there is no amphotericin B or liposomal amphotericin B. So there was a crisis in that scenario. So again, in our ECMM, along with the ISHAM, we tried to look into this issue together. And we have recommended this issue saying that if you don't get liposomal amphotericin B, start giving the amphotericin B deoxycholate and or itraconazole, or isavuconazole or posaconazole. When nothing is available, then we have suggested for going for itraconazole. Now, in orbital mucormycosis, some of the doctors in India, they tried with some of the local installation of this amphotericin B. They have said that the medial orbital resection with orbital decompression and retrovalvular amphotericin B injection, which they have tried. Initially, they have shown encouraging results, but I would say this approach is difficult decision require multidisciplinary expertise and close monitoring. And orbital extension is warranted when extensive initial orbital involvement and with worsening of the disease that is being there. Friends, when this outbreak was going on, several misinformation and misleading facts were there. One is that black fungus, mucormycosis said to be contiguous, which is not. We have to train them. It is not spread by through oxygen, humidifier, water, or mask. No antifungal prophylaxis is recommended, but a lot of people started giving prophylaxis, which is not correct. Many people have been treated when this liposomal amphotericin B is not available with voriconazole and fluconazole, which we had to really struggle to stop in this aspect. And sometimes when drugs are not available, they are going for combination of antifungal therapy. That is not recommended, and there is little evidence in support of combination therapy. Even when this onion is having this black color, they have started calling whether it has mucor, or in your refrigerator, if there is this black fungus, is it mucor or not? So we have to show how this mucorales, especially the Rhizopus aereus, they look like. That's the real struggle we have to do with this patient. Now the question is how to prevent this COVID-associated mucormycosis. That really we did, and that would help by delivering lectures after lectures. We did this good glycemic control now. We had rationalized the steroid use. That is very important. Third important thing, we have started advising this patient with universal masking at least for a month or two. During discharge of the patient were advised what are the early symptoms and signs. So friends, summarizing what I tried to tell you is that this is a very important outbreak happened where we learned a lot of things. During this, major issue was steroid and the glycemia control, which was poor. This is the major issue factor which has been there. We have suggested how to suspect the disease early and advise about the early symptoms and signs. We have told these doctors that older age, diabetic, ICU admission, glucocorticoid therapy, you should be cautious. Next, in case of this, we need an early diagnosis in mucor. That is very important. And that's the way we try to train them. That is the very important factor. Aggressive surgical debridement is also very important. And cost of treatment is a serious challenge in Asian country because we have seen that a lot of patients, they could not complete the therapy. They have gone and they are coming back after having their intracranial involvement that is there. Thank you, friends. I invite you to this particular conference that would be happening next year. That is our 21st Congress of International Society for Human and Animal Mycology. It would be now during September 2024, during 2022. And for me, John Perfect would take over as the president of this body. Thank you for your kind attention.